Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about Foundation Episode 8 titled The Missing Piece. Before we get into it, please make sure to like this video. Please make sure to subscribe for new as we keep all the movies and TV shows. Like always, I will be doing a quick recap of the whole episode. Then I'll give my rating on it at the end. Talk about some theories about what's going on, what I liked about the episode throughout. And let's get into it. So the episode begins with a flashback on the planet Anacreon. We see a young Huntress running through the woods with her friend. All of a sudden, in the sky, we have a series of missiles that are coming down. A big explosion happens and it kills her friend. This is obviously the big attack we hear that happened on Anacreon from the Empire that Huntress has been talking about as she pledges revenge on the Empire. So now we'll cut to present day. We see Huntress telling Salvor about this experience, and she said that this is what made her a warrior. She also says that she believes God approved her mission to destroy the Empire for revenge. She says she doesn't care about mankind and she wants to use the Invictus to destroy the planet Trantor, which we already knew. So I think Huntress has become a really compelling character, especially with this flashback. Just having her whole revenge plot just made her a lot more interesting. When she was first introduced in the beginning, I honestly didn't think she was going to be that big a part of this show. But as we see, she's become very interesting. I'm happy to see that the villain has become, a compelling character with use of flashbacks. It just goes a long way, for her as a villain. So then we cut to Gaal, who's talking to Harry Seldon about their big revelation that happened last episode, where it's revealed that Gaal can see the future, through visions and stuff. So she explains that sometimes she sees them in dreams. Harry believes that her ability puts her ahead of the math. He also says that their mission is to reach Helicon in order to start the second foundation. Gaal is sort of tired of having all this information hidden from her, and she demands to leave. So now we go to Brother Day, who by far has the best storyline in this episode. We see him where he is about to take on the Great Spiral. He is stripped of whatever technology he uses to protect himself. He's going to be very vulnerable on this journey. This is the first time he'll be susceptible to actual injuries, and he will suffer like a real person. So we see Brother Day walk across the desert. There's a couple of scenes where he's just trudging along. And he's obviously struggling along this journey at times. As for Salvor and the rest of the crew on the Invictus ship, the jump cycle is quickly approaching. If you guys remember in the last episode, in order to see the Invictus as a ghost ship, they determined that it's been doing these jump cycles every 4 hours, I think. And it's been jump cycling to unknown destinations, which can pretty much kill you, I think, that's what's implied. And so the jump cycle is quickly approaching. And suddenly one of the crew members is attacked by a gun turret in the ship. It's a live gun turret that was never turned off. So Salvor and Huntress decide to team up together to take it down. Salvor distracts the gun turret while Huntress destroys it. This gives an opportunity for Salvor to retrieve some sort of weapon and use it against the Anacreons. And her and Lewis are able to escape in like a different part of the ship for a little bit. So now in this separate part of the ship, Salvor and Lewis are trying to figure out, some sort of navigation panel so that they can control the ship. They find this navigation cradle that requires a link that is hardwired into the human brain. So it's like, as you saw in the episode, there's some sort of slot in the back where, if you upload yourself or, if you put yourself in the cradle, you can control the ship in that way. So Salvor obviously, offers herself to do this, but it takes on a huge risk and most possibly means death for her. So now back to Brother Day, who's still continuing along the Great Spiral. He is accompanied by another man. They have a couple of conversations. Towards the end of their journey, the man starts to lose his strength. Day obviously doesn't want him to die. He's formed some sort of relationship with this character throughout the spiral. So the man collapses up to the floor. He goes on both knees, which symbolizes that his journey is done with the Great Spiral. He talks about a peaceful transition to the afterlife and, to Mother, I guess, is what they see it as. Then Day asks him a question. He says, but what if this is the end? What if there is no Mother? What if there is no afterlife? And so Day ends up continuing on. He leaves the man. He puts him in a nice resting place for him. And he continues on until he sees a cave. And so now he is happy that he finally made it to the end. The cave is the end of this journey. So it's like a cave filled with water. He goes in there, he lays down and he drinks all the water as he's obviously as he's dehydrated. So now cut to Day returning from his journey, and he is asked about his journey by the Council of Maiden. It's like the Maiden Council. So he describes what he saw in the cave. He says that it's real, and he said that he saw a 3-petal flower swirling above him from the sand, right? So he implies that it's real. The Council of Maiden talk about how the birth fruit flower, which is a sign from the triple goddesses that their world can survive. And so they see the 3 petals representing the 3 brothers, and Maiden announces that no Zephyr, which I guess is what the people of Maiden are called, will stand in his way. So Brother Day has obviously won this election that's going on, but at what cost, as we'll see at the end of this episode, what really went on in that cave. So now back to Gaal. She wants to know everything about what's going on, right? But Harry Seldon won't give her any more information. So Gaal gets angry and she destroys this cooling system in the ship. And she gives Harry Seldon an ultimatum. It's whether she burns in the ship now because the ship's going to explode, or he lets her free. So she begs him. Like, she truly believes that he doesn't need her. So Harry lets her free and she enters a cryopod. So Gaal leaves the ship. The big ship explodes. She puts in the destination to Synax and she goes into cryo sleep, right? So now, this is another death of Harry Seldon in some way. Obviously, I don't think this will be the last of him. We see him again. I'm guessing maybe we'll find out that he uploaded his consciousness into something else somewhere. Maybe Rach had some sort of backup for him. Or maybe he's just got all these different things that he could upload his consciousness into, which is kind of what I think. I don't know how, though, but I'm sure this isn't the last time we see Harry Seldon. So now we see Brother Day. He's walking through a crowd of people that are all worshiping him now. He thanks Halima for giving him the courage to walk the spiral. A little like F you to Halima. As he's obviously won against her. Halima's very quiet. She doesn't really say much in this part. And but then we see Halima and Demerzel speak in private. And so now this scene was really interesting. I love this scene. I thought it was really good. And so they're speaking in private. And Halima says Demerzel has the freedom of choice if she no longer believes in the Empire as she has those inclinations about her. Demerzel reveals that she's like the only living robot left. She's been alive for thousands of years. But then Halima then senses that Demerzel was sent to her to kill her by Brother Day. Demerzel obviously doesn't want to do this. We see in her face she's very distraught about this. She even cries and apologizes. Halima appreciates her compassion and she says that she has a soul. And she calls Brother Day a soulless man, but she forgives Demerzel. So Demerzel says that it was through the touch of skin that poison was transferred from her to Halima, and that her death will have no pain. And so this scene is very interesting because it kind of reveals that I think Demerzel will commit treachery against the Empire and Brother Day at some point. I could definitely see a scene where Demerzel kills Brother Day, and she's starting to realize that maybe the Empire isn't the best choice, and that maybe she wants some sort of sense of freedom as well, as Halima sort of hints at how Demerzel is obviously upset that she doesn't have any sense of individuality. So, really compelling stuff. Really enjoyed this scene. Happy to see Demerzel get more screen time and more of this scene where we can see what's actually going on in her mind. So I really like that, but let's continue. Now back in the Invictus ship, we see Lewis and Salvor trying to control the ship. They're then attacked by Huntress and her partner. All of a sudden, the Thespian Republic show up with their ship, and they order the Anacreans to stand down. So I forgot to tell this earlier, but it's revealed that Hugo is still alive. I talked about this last episode. I asked you guys if you think Hugo is still alive or not. I had my doubts that he was dead. Like, I wasn't really sure if he was dead or not. I wouldn't be surprised if they just killed him off in that episode. But I'm happy to see that he's still alive. And I think someone even pointed out that he was alive in the comments. So good for you for getting that right. And so it's revealed that he's alive, but he sends out an SOS to the Thespian Republic, warning them about the Anacreans. So obviously his message worked. The Thespian Republic show up. And so during this whole struggle that's going on, the Invictus ship makes the jump into space, which is supposed to mean death from what we thought, from as we see with these dead crew members on the Invictus ship and what the stakes were. This would obviously mean death for whoever's in the Invictus ship. Obviously, I don't think they're going to kill Salvor or even Huntress yet, but it's just really interesting to see what's going to happen now, because it looks like the jump was made, and we saw the big explosion and everything that went on. So, very interesting. I'm excited to see what happens. Obviously, like I said, Salvor is probably not dead. Huntress not dead. So we'll see what happens, but I thought it was really cool. Let's continue. So now for the ending of this episode, which might just be the best ending to any episode in the show so far. So we see Demerzel. She's obviously angry at Brother Day because she's unsure why Halima had to be killed because he already won. She then tells him that she has a birth root flower in her quarters, and that when she visited the spiral thousands of years ago, she had that flower with her. So she's surprised that Brother Day didn't recognize the flower in her quarters. So it seems like Demerzel has figured out Brother Day lied about his vision. Like, it looks like right here, Demerzel already put it together because he didn't recognize the flower. And so she then says that she is pleased that he was graced with the same vision, because to see nothing She would not wish that upon any man. Brother Day obviously looks concerned about what she's saying. He prepares for a jump back to Trantor. And now in the last scene, we see a flashback back to the cave where he ended the Great Spiral. And it seems like Day didn't actually see a vision in the cave after all. He lied. And so it shows him kneeling in the water. He's lonely. He's questioning his very existence as he's looking up, probably waiting for a vision that never came. And such a strong ending. Just the imagery of that last scene is really strong. And it was just a great exclamation point to cap off another great episode. My rating for this episode is a 3.9 out of 5. I do think the last episode was a tad better. I think I rated the last episode 4 out of 5. This one was a 3.9 out of 5. And you know what? It could even be better than that rating just when you look back at the whole episode and sort of look at the deeper meanings that are going on and what could come from, you know, the Invictus ship and what's going on there, and Demerzel and her treacherous future, and, you know, what could occur is really exciting, and I'm really excited to see how everything plays out. But so I think this show's turned out to be something really special. I sort of had my doubts at times with, like, I really liked the beginning of the series, and then there was a couple episodes where I was like, I think I was a little bit confused personally just by the language and the lore. It was just so much thrown at me, so it just took me some time to get into it. But once I finally did get a hold of the story and the world and the characters, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I really am. And the cinematography, I talk about it every episode because every episode it's really good. Here it's just as great, just phenomenal. You could have so many shots in this series that are just amazing. Like, just the space shots, and especially for a TV show, it's some of the best cinematography I've ever seen in any TV show or in any sort of, you know, film, you know, in general. So just want to always talk about that. I also like how Huntress becoming a better character. I talked about that. I think the plot with Salvor in this episode was good. I like the whole Invictus jump, having it high stakes and suspense in the ship. Thought that was all really well done. I think Gaal's plot could have been a little bit stronger with Harry Seldon, but it was good. I like how it's moving along now. You know, the ship's destroyed, really cool, and we'll see where everything goes. But the real highlight of this episode is Brother Day and Demerzel. Like, they stole this show for me. I loved watching Day sort of like come to terms with his own existence on that spiral walk. Some great quotes and lines and back and forth dialogue between him and that other man that I really enjoyed. Him lying about the vision was something I personally didn't see coming. So I thought that was really interesting. And then Demerzel having, you know, she will perform treachery in this show, I think. It's kind of obvious from this episode. But I didn't really get... We got hints of it, right, throughout the show. But I didn't really think she was going to do it probably until the Halima scene. That's where I was like, okay, doesn't trust the Empire anymore. She doesn't trust Brother Day. And just her finding out about Day lying about the vision is sort of like the icing on the cake for her. And the last line she says about how she doesn't wish seeing no vision upon anyone because of that emptiness or whatever. Great line, great stuff. It's just really compelling. So, I mean, I really enjoyed this episode. I loved it. I can't wait for next episode. And, you know, the 3.9, I think could be a little bit higher. But I think I definitely did like the last episode a little bit more. We'll see. Maybe I'll rewatch them. But, you know, it was great. I do think there's so much more to come in this show, which is really exciting to hear. I think we have a lot better episodes to come. Even though this one was great, I do think the show could really hit some cool marks that I'm really excited for. So let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Did you enjoy it? Did you dislike it? What'd you think? You got any theories? Anything I missed? Please let me know. And please let me know how you feel about the show in general. I know a lot of book fans, they're going back and forth. I think some of the book fans are just sort of like accepting the show for what it is. They see it's kind of good, and they're starting to like it. But let me know down below what you think. So make sure you like this video if you haven't already. Please make sure to subscribe for new, and I will see you all in the next video.